All right. Thanks, everybody. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Um, and we'll start just by saying a little bit about who we are first. So I'm Matthew, and I'm an organizer with Extinction Rebellion DC. So if you're not familiar with Extinction Rebellion or XR, we are a nonviolent direct action group. We use civil resistance to elicit change from governments and corporations to make progress on solving the climate catastrophe. And um, you know, there are a lot of things really that government and corporations need to do to address the myriad crises that are plaguing our planet. But there is one thing that is our central demand that must happen as soon as possible, and that is an end to the use of fossil fuels. This is the thing that has to happen, and it's kind of a non-starter. We have to end all fossil fuels. Of course, governments have waved their hands for a long time and come up with lots of plans and protocols and agreements, but nothing's worked. And you know, the fact is that these proposals are good, but obviously not nearly strong enough. And unlike many other crises, the climate crisis is not something that changes because we change how we believe in it, right? Fundamentally, it's not a problem of ideas, it's a physics problem, right? The only way to stop climate change is to stop emitting the gases that cause the planet to warm. And despite all the agreements that have happened, we haven't really put the brakes on emissions. So since governments have failed us, we have to go out in the streets, we have to act now, and we use nonviolent civil resistance techniques to try to force governments to make the changes that are necessary to save our planet. So XRDC has been running a campaign about methane infrastructure in DC. So believe it or not, DC, one of the most liberal cities in the United States, and yet our local, one of our local utility companies, Washington Gas, is now proposing to spend billions of dollars on new methane infrastructure in DC. So not just repairing broken natural gas infrastructure, which needs to happen because methane leaks are killing people, but actually building new infrastructure, right? Infrastructure that didn't exist before to bring more gas into the city. And that's completely incompatible with both the city's stated goals and obviously with what needs to happen to avert the worst consequences of climate change. So we have been waging a campaign through the second half of 2022 and still now, and we'll be ramping up in the spring of 2023 to stop this part of Project Pipes, as they call it, that builds new methane infrastructure in DC. We've been going to the city council building, as you saw on the previous slide. We've been blocking roads. This was right in front of Washington Gas's headquarters. We shut down for like 2 hours down on the wharf. Everything we can to bring attention to this issue and to get them to change course before it's too late. So that's a little bit about XRDC, but our guests today, who I think a lot of us are excited to hear from, are not with XRDC. They are with a student group in Uganda, and they marched last September to protest the construction of EACOP. So this is the East African crude oil pipeline. It's being built and financed by, I think, French companies, and it runs through both Uganda and Tunisia. And so obviously this is new fossil fuel infrastructure. This can't happen for all the reasons I think we all agree on in this call. So they took to the streets, and they actually just did a peaceful march down to the EU offices last September in Kampala. And of course, because this is what governments do, they were somewhat brutally arrested and jailed, several of the activists. So we are lucky to have some of them with us today who will be talking to us about their experiences getting arrested and getting jailed in DC. They'll tell us a little, I'm sorry, in Uganda. They'll tell us a little bit more about EACOP and their experiences with activism in Uganda and Kampala. And after we hear from them, we'll hear a little bit more from Carol about her experiences. She's an XRDC rebel. Her experiences getting arrested in DC for climate activism. And after we hear sort of both sides of the story, I'll talk briefly about how everyone here on the call can help. And finally, we'll do what I think will be the best part of the call. We'll do a question and answer panel with the speakers. So I think this will be really interesting because this is a great opportunity to ask questions about nonviolent direct action, about activism and protest for climate issues, and really hear two different perspectives from different localities on the same issue. I think we'll be able to learn a lot from that. So with that, Alphonse, take it away.
So my simple task is to talk about EACOP and the students movement, what we are doing here in Uganda, to see that we have our concerns raised to end this deadly project. So with the EACOP, it is it's East African crude oil pipeline. This is a project that is being funded by the French government through its entities, that is the Total Energies, and it is also funded by the Chinese state offshore oil company, Sinopec, who are having shares within this project. So this project, it is to transport oil. The pipeline is to transport oil from Bunyoro sub-region here in Uganda to the Tanga region, that is in Tanzania. Then it can be exported to the global north for further processing. EACOP, it is the EACOP covers 1,443 kilometers, and according to statistics, it is estimated to emit 34 million carbon emissions every year. This is going, of course, to suffocate humanity. It is going to destroy nature, and it is one reason that causes for all of us to join in solidarity and fight this deadly project. The construction of this project comes at a time when there is a global climate crisis, and that is calling that is demanding for solutions from each of us who can do whatever we can to end this project. This project, just like in Washington, DC, that Extinction Rebellion is protesting the construction of methane gas infrastructure. Equally here in Uganda, it is the similar challenges we are facing as the population. This project, prior to the construction, they have already displaced an estimate of 18,000 people from their homes with little and majority with no compensation. The government, the net of government we have, it's a brutal one, and we have a president that has stayed in power for over 36 years. So he uses a lot of military force, and of course he has been describing the oil in the Hoima sub-region as his oil. So what does this go for? He's so desperate, and his government recently, one of the newspaper about 2 days ago, the cabinet confirmed the construction license for the EACOP. So it goes for, this shows how much work we have to do to terminate all these contracts. We have a lot of things to do, but what we have been doing as we people, we have been doing a number of things that includes protests, that includes petitions, and we have been also in awareness as a students organization. We are a students group, activist group of around 100 students activists from different universities, whose aspiration is to have the dangerous EACOP project stopped. So we have been engaged in a number of direct actions, and our first major direct action was last year in October, when I led a group of 50 more students activists, and we protested against the government of Uganda, calling for Total Energies to halt its funding, or to stop it was to stop its funding to this project. This is after the European Union had sat down and also recommended the president of Total Energies to back off this project. But however, of course, with the greed of Total Energy and the government of Uganda, they have failed to back down. Even with Macron, they have continued and insisted that they are meeting the environmental assessment standards, they are meeting the human rights, they claim there are no violations. But I personally am a victim of violation. With the colleagues here have been violated. One, of course, that is when we're on the streets, but also there have been threatening kind of calls. There have been kind of all kind of threats and follow-ups within even where we started from. And the government is so interested in knowing what are we up to, why are we engaged in such kind of things, you know. So maybe that's about us, but we have an aspiration to continue with further actions. We have been creating awareness, and we have aspirations to reach out to a number of people, to the communities, even within the students community, but also to the general public, creating awareness about this EACOP, its danger, so that we can rally them, so that the next time we engage in a protest activity, which should be a mega one, we are in position to rally hundreds and hundreds of people. So that's what we have been doing. And of course, to move forward, we kindly request for support from the organizations and activists, well-wishers in Washington, and even in other countries or parts of the world that are on this call. We are fundraising. We are fundraising, and I hope much we had a disruption of our internet, but we're in position to fix it. I hope Matthew was in position to share the link, but we are fundraising about $5,000 US dollars to meet up items within our work plan. We have a work plan. I hope to share it with you. I don't know if you can permit me, and I share the screen. We have the work plan of how we intend to move, and we have a number of activities in that work plan, like reflecting, distributing leaflets, flyers, stickers, trainings, and of course, raising public through the state media if we are granted opportunity. So we are doing a number of things. Well, we have been doing a number of things, and we intend to engage in a number of things as well, in a number of activities as well. So that's why it's a kind request to those ones who can be in position to donate to us. We are a group of activists, but of course, maybe we are yet university students. But of course, like me, I'm in my final year. I'll soon leave university, but I have to have a direct impact on the community. So we want to raise that public awareness, but to reach out to all this, it needs us to have ready funds. And that's why it is a kind request to everyone there to support our work here in Uganda. Your support, it will not be in vain. It is going to influence decision making. It is going to influence what the politicians will decide and the government leaders, because we are going to face them with a lot of vigor and energy. So that's majorly that's what we are up to as of now. I don't know. I think my time is a little bit getting done, but I believe I've given a detailed report of what we are doing. However, maybe when I'll be discussing the budget, the budget, I also share the work plan for the audience to be in position to view it. Thank you so much, Matthew. and Carol J, Linda, and the rest of the team that is joining us on this call.
Yeah, that's great. And I think we can maybe talk about some of those details when we get to the question and answer at the end. It'd be a great time to share that. Before we move on to Carol, would Alphonse, Carlos, Mark, would one of you want to talk? I only had like a picture or two and a news report, but do you want to tell us a little bit more in detail about what happened at the action at your march last year?
Yes.
Yeah, actually, to just briefly talk about that, last year we marched to the streets of Uganda, protesting against the government of Uganda, against EACOP, because they had decided to start the pipeline. So as Alphonse, our leader, he led us, plus other 50 colleagues, we had placards, we had banners. It was a peaceful protest. When we marched to the streets of Uganda, we had gone actually around the parliament of Uganda to show our dissatisfaction with the decision of the of the government of Uganda to carry on with the East African crude oil pipeline project because of its diverse effects that it would have on both humankind and on the wildlife. So we were brutally arrested. Yet, though it was a peaceful demonstration, the government of Uganda has a tendency of suppressing human rights and our voices and making sure that the voices are not heard. So when we went to the street of Uganda, we were arrested, violently arrested by the police, and also taken to the Central Police Station of Uganda, where we spent one night. Then after the one night, we were introduced before court, and they had already crimes on us. So what court did, it remanded us to Luzira Maximum Day Prison for a period of 8 days. All of us that were on the streets, they had no clear. It was actually done in a very, very fast way that they couldn't even allow our lawyers to hear from us. So we were taken to Luzira Prison. Luzira Prison is one of the maximum security prisons here in Uganda. And while there, we were actually talked to in a more scary way. We are threatened by the government officials not to do anything like protest against climate. Many of us were traumatized mentally, and actually while in prison, some of our colleagues had voted not to go back to the streets, but because we kept in touch with one of each other, and you see that if government of Uganda can come out and arrest us because of standing for what is right, then why shouldn't we carry on the mantle to see that we can save actually more than actually 18,000 people who have already been affected by this project. So we are motivated by their actions of arresting us, and we said we shall carry on the mantle because what we stand on was only the truth. So while in prison, so many things happened. Some of us were in the process of arrest. Some of us were brutalized, and we got wounds, we got injuries. Others, actually, their arms were affected. Even while in Luzira Prison, they would actually come in the night and grab us and threaten us. That caused a lot of trauma to some of our colleagues. Even up to now, some of them have not yet recovered from the memories of last year while we were in the streets of Kampala. But we always keep in touch with, encourage them, and most of them are more than willing to carry on with the climate justice and to advocate what is right, because this is our nation. And above all, it's not only affecting us, the human beings, it's affecting the wildlife, it's affecting most of us here in Uganda, and if we don't speak up, then no one is going to speak up. With the university students have decided to rally actually more people behind us so that we can have this even more the next time we stand up and rise against this EACOP. And we believe when we rise up to speak, something can be changed. The government can decide to back up on this project because of our voices. Thank you so much. Maybe my colleague Mark can have something to add on that.
Thank you very much. Once again, my name is Kajibi Maktu, one of the ex-prisoners who were arrested during the protest when we are taking our petition to the European Union. We were arrested brutally. They brutally arrested us and beaten us seriously. They first of all took us to the cells of Kampala prison, and after they took us to Zira Maxwell Bay, where we stayed for 8 days. Here they put us together with people who are the thieves, the rebels. They put us together with those people, so we were so much traumatized and we're so affected. So like the brains, it really traumatizes when you put together with those people. But we were not intimidated in our hearts, and we have inspirations to move forward. Though we have intimidations from the government telling us to stop whatever we want to do, but we are so eager and inspired to move forward. And what we have been currently doing is creating awareness to our fellow students to make sure that we increase on the number and stay on the course. Yeah, that's all I can say for now.
Thanks, Mark. Carlos, Alphonse, thank you. That was great. We'll move to Carol now and hear a little bit about what's going on in XRDC and what it's like to be arrested in DC. And then after that, I'll come back on, say one or two things about how we can help, but then we'll do questions and make it like a nice open discussion at the end of the call. So make sure you save up any questions you have. Thanks, guys. And Carol, go ahead.
Hi, everybody. My name is Carol. I'm a member of XRDC, and I've been active with XRDC for over a year now. And part of our campaign right now in DC, we are organizing to try to get the city to move towards electrification, trying to put pressure on the City Council and the Public Service Commission in DC to say no to new fossil fuel infrastructure, which is Washington Gas wants to replace all of the fossil fuel pipelines that it uses to pipe natural gas through the city. And we want to say no to this. And we've been out in the streets and through a number of actions. And I've been arrested a few times in DC, and also manhandled a few times, not always arrested. One thing that I'm really grateful for in DC is that, you know, we do have a lot of privilege to be able to exercise our First Amendment rights. And so we have the ability to make our message clear. Just this past Wednesday, we stood outside the Public Service Commission with a big, huge banner for people who were arriving there for an energy summit, and the Public Service Commission was very unhappy about our presence there, and they called the police. And the police got there, and the police said, "Well, I don't think there's anything we can do about it." So then the police just left. So that was kind of nice. Yeah, we also shut down a city council meeting last year for a little bit, and we got pretty aggressively thrown out of the meeting, I would say, but they did not arrest us. And I've also been arrested a few times in DC for blocking traffic. And for those arrests, I did not have to even stay overnight. They arrested me. They patted me down fairly thoroughly and took me into the police station. It was a lot of bureaucratic waiting, um, and I had to pay a fine um, for those arrests, but did not have to stay overnight. So really, I'm grateful that I'm able to make my voice heard in DC. Um, it has not affected my employment, and um, yeah, we have a lot of power in DC, and I can tell, when we block traffic, when we make our voice heard in DC, the people in power get upset, and that's how we know that what we're doing makes a difference. And so I'm really grateful to all of you being here today to hear about the brave actions of our colleagues in Uganda, and hope that wherever you are, I see we've got folks in Texas and Colorado. I hope wherever you are that you find ways to join with us in stopping fossil fuels, stopping new fossil fuel infrastructure. And if you are local, if you're in DC, come join us, and let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Carol. Yeah, that was good. So before we do the question and answer session, first of all, it looks like Alphonse's connection dropped, so hopefully they'll be back in soon. And yeah, but before we do the question and answer session, I just wanted to share one last bit of information with people. So as Alphonse was saying earlier, they are building their organization, and they need help doing that. So anybody who is, willing and able to donate to them, I'd really ask that you do it. They need our help. I mean, in many ways, the whole global north needs to get their act together, but we can at least start by helping them, fight back against the Ugandan government and the forces that are building new fossil fuel infrastructure through their homes and displacing people and causing climate chaos. So if you can donate, I think Reb dropped a link in the chat earlier. There's also that QR code there. Please give what you can. One way you might think about it is think about, how much time you would like to give, and maybe think about if you're employed, like what's your hourly salary? Like maybe an hour is a reasonable thing to give. I'd encourage you to do that. The other thing you can do, especially if you're in DC, like Carol said, we would love for you to come out and help XRDC, help stop new methane infrastructure in the Washington region. And whether you are, whether you're interested in joining XRDC long-term or not, XRDC is doing a training to learn how to do the kind of nonviolent direct action that we do in the city that Carol was talking about earlier, and we're doing that next weekend. So we would love if you could join us. You can RSVP at the xrdc.org website, or just scan this code. And we'd love to see you there. So now I want to move on to the questions and answers, and that's awesome. It looks like Alphonse and Mark and Carlos reconnected. So yeah, I'm gonna try to spotlight them. And yeah, if we were maybe gonna do questions in the chat, but actually it's like kind of a nice group here, and I think if you want me to ask a question for you, please drop it in the chat and I will. But otherwise, maybe raise your hand and I can call on people, and feel free to ask your question directly. I actually had one just sort of weird question. So I can start. It's just a stupid thing, but I'm kind of curious, like what's the food like in jail? Like, I don't know. I mean, yeah, what's the food like? That's my question. I'm just kind of curious what the experience is like being there. So, guys in Uganda, I don't know if you have anything to say about that. Like, oh, you guys are muted. I don't know if you're talking or not, but I can unmute you. Hey guys.
Hey,
we can hear you.
Matthew, we
Hey.
would you please pardon that question?
What's that? Can you say that one more time?
Could you please pardon the question?
Oh, yeah. I was just asking, I was just curious what the experience of being in jail is like. And so I was wondering, like, what kind of food do they give you in jail in Uganda?
Okay, our experiences of being in jail in Uganda, as like Carol said, some of us, it is not the first time we are arrested. We have been arrested on a number of causes, but specifically for EACOP, it was once last year. In one, the housing, the accommodation is totally poor. When you enter those jails, you either get out with this sickness when you're sick, or with maybe tuberculosis. We find people who are infected with the tuberculosis. We find people who are infected even with other transmittable diseases. And another thing, there is, of course, like we said, there is brutality by those people who are in charge of find they speak to you arrogantly, they traumatize you, discourage you, and they torture us. You find that sometimes they are beating you. Even if some of those people who are inside prisons, they work for the government. So when you reach there, they put their own kind of like spies. So they be discouraging you, demotivating you that what do you want out after us? Why are you struggling with us? They beat you. They do a lot of crazy things on us. So it's really not easy. And I think Comrade Carlos can also have an insight of that.
Well, the situation in Uganda prison, I think it's the worst in most of the prisons in Africa. These are conditions that happen in the prison. One, first of all, the prisons we are designed in a way that they can only accommodate, the wards can only accommodate around 20 people. There are so many wards, but you find that in a ward that should accommodate 20 people, you are over 180 people. So this has created limited space for people to sleep. You find that you sleep on the floor. You don't have good. You don't provide you with blankets or anything. You just have to spend the night on the floor. It's well congested. Remember, these facilities, the wards are designed to accommodate 20 people, but then you find that you are over 180 people in one ward. So this literally means that you'll have to congest yourself even in the night. So it's actually very hard to sleep while you're in these prisons. The other thing I would like to talk about is their feeding. The feeding is totally bad, very poor feeding, because people are actually fed on half-cooked meals. There's what we call, I think they call it brand in the US, or it's called comb. It's what they feed prisoners on while in the Uganda prisons, and half-cooked beans. That these are things that they put in place to actually traumatize you, to actually cause pain, and make sure that you don't go back to the prisons because of the worrying situations which are there. There's also forced labor, because the prisons here have farms. So many times you are told to go and do farming, to actually dig on these farms that are actually owned by the government. So during the time when we are there, we are taken to most of the farms there to dig, and you dig from morning up to evening. and with no penny given to you. It's just like a it's more or less like a punishment that they have done to you. Then there's also limited freedom to move around. You find that you spend most of the hours inside these cells. You are given little time to move out and maybe refresh and have the fresh air around you. So it's really a very bad condition that you don't have time to move around, or like maybe the prison in DC and other countries elsewhere. Here I think you spend more hours indoors of these wards, which are actually overpopulated with over 180 people. So that congestion makes that transmission of these diseases like tuberculosis and all kind of sorts very easy, because they bring people from all sorts of life in these cells. So most of us left after these prisons with so many diseases and illnesses, and most of our colleagues have not recovered from them. For example, tuberculosis, it takes a while and a lot of treatments to actually recover, to be better. So the condition is really so worrying and so traumatizing that if one goes there, I wouldn't wish to actually go there even.
Yeah. So it sounds like, my question was about food and you answered that, but it sounds like just every single thing is designed to really make you, not want to be there and sort of torture you and kind of depress you in every way they can. Right. Yeah. That's, thanks for sharing that. Carol, I know my question was originally just about food, but do you want to say anything about conditions in jail, either in DC or when you've been arrested elsewhere for climate stuff?
Yeah, I would say, yeah, I've not had to stay in the jail in DC overnight. I've heard that the conditions there can be very bad, and hygiene can be very bad as well, with between COVID and bed bugs and other things. I did stay overnight 2 nights in a county jail in Minnesota when I was arrested there in 2021. They did give 3 meals a day. Most people found the food to be pretty bad, but you don't starve unless you have major dietary restrictions. Yeah. But it can be, I will say that it can be traumatizing depending on if folks, people who are trans or LGBTQ, depending on your race and that sort of thing. It can be very traumatizing to be in jail. I see there are some more questions in the chat as well.
Yeah, they're coming in. I think so. Claire's had her hand up for a while. So I'm going to let Claire ask her question, then I'll go to the chat.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, hi, this is Claire with XRDC. And my question was, so, both the folks from Uganda and DC talked a lot about, the reaction of the government to what they're doing, which is obviously a big part of the goal. But I'm curious what, the comparison between Uganda and DC is in terms of how your friends or your family or your neighbors, like how is this kind of nonviolent direct action and getting arrested and all of that viewed by, your other people that you know?
Yeah, Carol, do you want to take that first, and then we'll hear from the guys in Uganda?
Yeah, I would say my friends and family are fairly supportive. In general, I'm very lucky that way. I think a lot of people, in the general public though, are still might feel like, well, why would you go that far? And, so when we're out there in the streets, we definitely hear we hear from members of the public who say things like, "Get a job." That's the classic critique. That's not not logical. That's yeah. I'll hand it over to the folks from Uganda. How do you can unmute yourselves and share how do your friends and family feel?
For our friends and the families, mostly I'll start with the families. Of course, with the rest of the colleagues, with some of the colleagues, most of these ones who were arrested, I'll give an example. Some of them, they have their families, who are working with the government, and they were not well, or they have not been well. With these colleagues getting out to the streets, they always tell them, you have a future ahead, you have to concentrate on the books, study, graduate, find a job, just like Carol is told by her family members. Equally, these colleagues are told such kind of statements to demotivate them. But personally, for me, I always I always take it as a responsibility to explain it to my parents and the friends that, of course, there is a crisis at hand, and that, of course, motivates me to move forward. However, of course, they try to guide in line with the restrictions, how far I can go, I shouldn't, because we're in a brutal regime whereby they can kill you at any time when you're on the streets, just like Carol said, unlike what Carol said, that in Washington, D.C., human rights are respected. Here, they are violated the moment they see you on the streets. The president of the country feels threatened. So they always bring in such kind of examples. And they, of course, they tell you, most of us, they tell us you can go ahead, but you should also know there is a life you have to live. But it has not been an easy situation for all of us.
Yeah, thank you so much. Maybe to also comment on that, about how it has affected my friendship with my friends. One, most of my friends find this as a brave move, because of the current status quo in the country, that everyone who raises up to raise voices against government projects is seen as a brave person here in Uganda, because the current government, as my friend Alphonse said, it's brutal, and it has managed to scare most of people who always come out and raise such voices. So now friends see us carry on the call for climate justice. Some of them see that as it's a brave move, and most of them have encouraged us to carry it on. And actually, I've been able to recruit more friends to come on board so that we can carry on the call for climate justice.
Maybe also to add on that, since we are in a government which is brutal, most of our families think we are fighting government, because the president says it open that the oil is his oil. So coming up to go against the project, his project, as in terms it as his project, coming up to go against the projects is so it puts us in danger. So our families sometimes they are scared, but that does not discourage us. For us, we have visions, and we have plans and visions. So we do not, I don't know how to explain it, but
Back down.
we do not back down because of the situation and threats from other people, but we stay on the course. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you for sharing those experiences. So there are some more questions in the chat. Rachel asked, what has been the most effective way to get more people involved, in your movement? Like what strategies have brought people in to join you? And yeah.
I'll start with the environment around us. It has been one of the most effective way we can get together. Given we are students, when we are in classes, when we are in our discussion groups, we always sensitize and we motivate people, encourage them, plead with them, show them the dangers of EACOP, show them why they have to fight this project. And of course, you find at the end of the day, of course, it takes some time, sometimes a month, 2 months, people to join, but they later on join. But of course, we have been also engaged in other ways of sensitization. For example, we are so much interested in doing the reflecting and postering with our banners with the message. We have not yet tried out this, but we believe it is one of the effective way of doing this because of a number of reasons, some of them which are financial related, but also if we are to deploy the public awareness through banners, stickers, flyers, it will be so effective. But also talk shows through state media. There are also other effective ways of engaging also the public. It is one of the effective ways. Lobbying, sometimes the government, the media creates space for activists to come and listen. Though, of course, like we said, there have been suppression with some of the media stations have been warned not to host people who are talking about EACOP, about this pipeline project. But of course, where we have space, we do not be that. But also, another effective way would be through training more people. Because when we train, we encourage other people to come with maybe a colleague on the next training, but we have not been in position to do this because of because we have not do this because of financial resources, but also the people that expertise. We need more people. Like maybe we can have a presentation from some of the organizations in the DC or other climate organization coming on board to train. Maybe we can organize training sessions, and maybe we have a presentation from someone to be training most on non-violence and civil disobedience, and they motivate people to come and protest, because these tactics, people need them at the end of the day. So that's one way of creating awareness.
Yeah, I think that's great. And that's something that I think XR can definitely think about doing. It's a great idea. Carol, what about you? Do you, especially when you're actually like out there on the street, not just sitting in outreach meetings, what's the, what's the effective ways to get people to join?
Yeah, I've done a lot of flyering, but I find I really enjoy talking with people, not just handing people a flyer, and creating space for conversations. And people, I've been surprised how much people welcome those conversations and want to engage. Most people are concerned about the climate crisis, but don't necessarily know what to do about it, don't necessarily know how to create space in their lives to do something about it. Maybe they've been taught not to rock the boat, or maybe they don't feel like they have time or energy to do something more in their lives. But I find that creating space and letting them see I'm just a regular person, and that there's such a variety of ways that people are able to get involved. There's so many different skills that people can use, and it doesn't have to be hard. And it's something that we can still continue our lives, and we can but make changes that can be very powerful. We all have a lot of power. So I really appreciate the conversations that I have with folks.
Yeah. Well, so there's another question in the chat. And this one is, I think, just for you guys in Uganda. So someone was asking, are there other, although actually maybe Carol could answer a version of this question. So the question in the chat was, are there other non-student groups in Kampala who are also protesting EACOP? Maybe you guys can answer that, and then maybe Carol, you could mention any of the other organizations we partner with in DC who are sort of fighting in the same campaign.
Okay. For any groups, non-student groups in Kampala protesting EACOP, mostly the groups we have, one which are so common and popular, it is Fridays for Future, Uganda branch. However, their approach has not been through civil disobedience. They don't organize direct actions or what. Their approach is through petitions. Their approach is through petitions and the issues maybe, but they are not involved in direct protest actions. It is only actually, it was first of its kind that that a group marched and protested EACOP. It had never happened in record. So that's why the other people were so interested in knowing how do we operate, you know. But and others have wanted to work with us, like the Fridays for Future branch, of which we are in touch with them. But of course, most of the times their approach is quite different from ours. Ours is more of direct actions, disruptions, just like how the XR DC do their protests.
Great, thanks. Yeah, Carol, do you want to speak to other organizations around DC who are fighting climate change or specifically methane infrastructure with NVDA if they're, yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was just asking Carol a new version of the question.
Yeah, there are. We're grateful that there are so many groups in DC that are fighting climate change in lots of different ways, and there are some groups that we're working with specifically on stopping methane infrastructure in DC as well. And some groups are working more on the political side. How do we change, how do we make an impact from the political angle? We do have progressive council members now who are interested in stopping climate change. And so we've got, we're working with some groups that are working from that angle. And I think that's important for a really comprehensive nonviolent direct action campaign to have folks out in the streets and also folks who are in the meetings. And yeah, we've also been working some with Metro DC DSA, the Democratic Socialists of America. They've been having a campaign to reform public utilities, because we have utilities like Pepco and Washington Gas, which are for-profit entities, but are supposed to serve the public. And we are supposed to have, they're supposed to be regulated appropriately, but that doesn't always happen because of the close connection that these for-profit corporations have with the people in power in the government. So trying to keep these corporations accountable at the very least. We've been working with others on that.
Yeah. All right. So Reb, do you have a question, or Charles? I see your hands up.
I was wondering, like, I heard that that EACOP was like already partway through construction. Like, where is it in that process, and what's the route of actually getting EACOP to be stopped totally, to get the construction stopped?
Yes, the construction of EACOP, it has not yet started. just like I said during the introduction, that the cabinet or the government 2 days back approved the construction license. So there is no way its construction can start when they have not, when they haven't approved the construction license. Of course, it has delayed them because there have been a number of protests happening, rather petitions. It has been much more petitions, just like I said, activists like from Fridays for Future, they have been engaged in petitions. So, and it has not, its construction hasn't yet happened, but the plan to start as soon the construction. That's what the media, during the media briefing about, was it yesterday or yesterday, but one, the Minister for Energy said that the government is soon starting the construction. But of course, with the number of protests, with the number of like the petitions that are in court, it is quite hard for them to start the construction yet.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, good information. So it's the top of the hour. I'm gonna drop some links in the chat again. So people who are in DC or nearby, if you want to come get trained on how to do this kind of civil resistance, please click there and RSVP. Even more important, anybody who can donate even a little amount to help these guys build up their group in Uganda and really fight as hard as they can against EACOP. You can donate here, and yeah, we'll see what we can do to help them both financially and also with training and whatever else that we can provide. With that, I don't know, does anybody, one last thing, I guess, if maybe you can't make it to XR's training, but you want to get involved, or maybe you can't donate money to the guys in Uganda, but there's some other way that you think you can help. I'm going to put XR's email in the chat. So please feel free to reach out with, if you want to get involved with us, if you have some way to help these guys, I can put you in touch with Alphonse, and we'll do everything we can to stand in solidarity and fight climate infrastructure anywhere in the world. So thanks, guys, for coming. This was really great, and we really appreciate you spending your time educating us on this stuff and telling us about your experiences. And Carol, thanks as well for showing up and speaking. I don't know if Carol, do you want to say any kind of last words, and then I'll let Alphonse have the final word?
I'm just really grateful to Carlos, Alphonse, and Mark for being with us today, for calling in, and most especially thank you for your bravery and courage in stopping this, and I hope we can keep in touch. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll definitely be in touch. Especially, yeah, Alphonse, I'll be in touch with you soon about fundraising. But do you guys want to say one last word about EACOP and your movement to end the call?
What I will briefly say is that one, I will appreciate the XRDC. I'll appreciate the organizations that have joined in, like the Public Health Weekend. I've seen them, and the XR Boston, and many other organizations, I believe. Other people in the audience, they have been representing organizations. So we are really grateful for joining and sparing your time to be with us. Of course, like we have said on the call, it's not easy for us here in Uganda, and our kind request, our humble request is us moving together, listening from each other. Most importantly, this advice, the trainings, you could maybe get the presentation from there, and other things we have said in the chat, on the call. Unless if my colleagues have something to share with you, but me, I'm really excited to meet a group of brave people like you people.
Well, maybe I would like also to thank you all for creating time for this call. only this actually encourages us so much to carry on with the call, because we believe this makes us believe that we are not the only ones standing in this cause for climate justice. We believe this solidarity gives us more strength to even carry on with a mantle, knowing that there are many people out there who are also standing for the same things and for the same values we stand for. So I'd like to thank you so much, and also request you if you could also stand with us in any way you could. It may be on social media, run this campaign of stopping EACOP. You can help us raise your voices from wherever you are, be it protest and all any other ways and methods you can use to stand and carry on this and raise your voices against this the project of EACOP. Wherever you are, it can be a protest, it can be carrying out a social media campaign in any way that you could. That would actually encourage us to carry on more further, knowing that even not only in Uganda, but even outside countries see that this is a digital project and they are actually against it. Thank you so much.
And I would like also to thank you so much for giving us this opportunity to share with you. And we are so glad, and we are looking forward to work with you as if at all you give us a chance to share always, and you join us in this campaign. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks to all you guys. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks so much. Guys in Uganda, we'll be in touch, and everybody else, thank you for spending your pre-lunch morning with us. And we'll all talk to you soon. I hope we can all do something like this again soon and get to know each other a bit better. But for now, have a good day.
Have a
Bye,
good day.
everybody.
Good night.